Okay, we're live. About a minute late, but that's fine. We're okay. If you know about this now, that means you've got your notifications turned on, and that means you're a subscriber, and that means you're awesome. You are awesome. You're all awesome anyway for joining us. If you are watching after the fact, that's fine. That's fine. You made the effort. That's cool. Welcome along, everybody. It's great to have you here. It is Talkin Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. I've got myself the social media going up at the moment, including that Twitter one. For as long as Twitter seems to be kicking about, yeah, Englishman SDCC on the old Twitters. We'll talk about that in a minute, no doubt. But yeah, it's been a funny old week when it comes to the old social media, hasn't it? If you are watching along, please comment. Jump in, let us know where you're watching from. You can, of course, comment on the YouTubes, on the Facebook, and on the Twitters. If you say hello, yeah, number one, let us know how it's sounding. Let us know that the picture's looking okay. We're going to be talking to a very interesting chap who has invited me on a collab. Yes, one of those things. Basically, we're going to be mixing things up. I'm going to be appearing on his podcast on Thursday, ICECAST. No, we're going to be talking to Shane Chebsey very shortly indeed. Into the blue, Mr. Evening all. Thermal socks on tonight. Bro, it is a bit chilly out. I've got the radiator on in this room. However long that's going to last, considering that, well, you have to be careful nowadays, what with the funds and stuff, and the way that the old economy is looking. You have to be careful. But no, jump in with the comments. Let us know where you're watching from. And thank you very much indeed. We're going to be talking about two shows in particular that myself and Shane attended last weekend. So I'm going to get into all of that. But if you attended a show recently, where did you go? Let us know, of course. And yeah, jump in with any of your comments, of course. It'd be great to know where you're watching from. Okay. I'm going to throw that up one more time. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and for now, Twitter. So there we go. Hello, Leanne. Good to have you joining us, and rather appropriate as well. I'll explain why in a minute. There we go. Yes, if you are joining us expecting to see Scott Snyder's delightful face, unfortunately, yeah, Scott's not going to be able to join us. But I will explain that after we've rolled this thing. Hello, how the devil are you? Welcome along. This is Talking Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. My name's Leonard Sultana. Each and every Sunday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. GMT, we do this. We talk about Comic Cons, we talk con culture, comics, pop culture, all sorts of stuff and nonsense, the bits and pieces, and the things that distract us at such wonderful shows, including the two that myself and my guest attended last week. Well, I'll tell you what, this is a proper collab. Yes, that's what one of the kids are calling it nowadays, a proper collaboration, because we have Shane Chebsey joining us. Hello there, sir. How the devil are you?
Hello.
Hello. Yes, I've been invited onto another podcast, so I'm going to be cheating on all of you with this chap. I could have worded that possibly a little bit different, but I'm not going to. I'm going to lean into it. Yes, the ICECAST, which is something which you've not checked out. I know certainly it's got a big audience or its largest audience on Facebook. Yeah, if you are not aware of this gentleman before, this is Shane Chebsey. Shane is, well, I'm going to let Shane introduce himself, considering this is a proper collab. This is ICECAST x Englishman in San Diego. Shane, welcome along, sir. Introduce yourself to the boys and girls.
Got to earn my keep, haven't I? If I'm going to come
All
on
right.
and do a bit of work.
You're co-hosting this bugger. Go for it.
So yeah, I thought it'd be great for us to sort of have a little bit of a collab, as the kids are calling it these days. And yeah, so ICECAST has been around for I guess since the pandemic started. It was when I started doing ICECAST, because I was doing conventions, and at the
just
time,
to explain, when he says doing conventions, he didn't mean just going to them. And then organizing the bloody things. He's one of those that we have to thank for such shows. Which conventions are you primarily behind?
So started in 2006 with Bix, which ran till 2011, and for a little while was the biggest comic convention in the country. Obviously, it soon got overshadowed by things like MCM, and eventually Thought Bubble got bigger. Yeah, it was good fun. And then I had a little bit of a break, and then came back in 2014 with ICE. And I have now, and I've done a few others as well. Obviously, Comic Slope here in Shrewsbury, but I have now retired from the convention scene, but wanted to continue doing like one of the most fun parts of conventions, and that was talking to people about comics and promoting comics, and that was the only reason I was ever really into doing ICE and all my other shows, for me anyway, was to promote comics and new comics and just the love of the medium, really. So I could still do that with the ICECAST, and we've been doing it for we're on our third season now. We tend to take a break in the summer holidays, quite a long break, because it just works out that way. But we're back, and we've had a few shows in the third season. We talk to people from, right across the broad spectrum of comics. We don't just go with the big names. We don't just go with the indie. We do both, which I suppose you could say, some people might say, oh, well, you haven't got a focus, But I find that it gives us more chance to speak to different types of people, different types of books, gives us a wider audience. And I think it's really nice, I think, to be able to introduce new stuff, or stuff, even old stuff that people haven't read before, and that's what it's all about, really.
Cool. Well, I mean, I'm looking forward to joining you on Thursday. So if you want to search for ICECAST on Thursday, for myself, Shane as the core host, but you also have the likes of Ollie McNamee from the Comic Con,
yes,
which is a known site, and also you have Comic Book Sam, who's usually the reprobate of the group. He's usually the one that's getting drunk and really causing all sorts of mischief, but he has a cracking YouTube channel as well. But yeah, looking forward to that. So it's going to be good. The three questions I ask, I don't know if I asked you these the last time you came on.
It's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, well, question number one is, what is your brew of choice? I'm liking the mug, by the way.
It's quite old now. It's from Hulk. It's from the old Ang Lee movie. This is. Yeah.
And what is your brew of choice
today?
Yeah,
is Yorkshire tea, actually.
Fair enough. Yeah. I've gone for Twining's extra strong English breakfast, because it's been a week. It's been a week. So yeah. Okay, so that's question number one. No, question number two. Can you remember your first comic convention that you went to? Way back in the day, when you were a wee.
You might have asked me this before, but probably then I'd probably had trouble remembering as well. It would have been a UCAC, I know that, in London, and it would have been sometime in the late 80s, I would imagine, which was when I got to the stage where I was allowed to travel on my own without my parents and with just friends, to far off London.
Okay. And I think that, well, the third question, if I've asked these before, I'll change it up. We'll come up with a third off the top of my head. And I think it would be, the third question is, have you ever been slightly kerfuffled by somebody that you've met at a convention, where you've just had a fangirl moment and just lost it? It's like the brain's just gone on the fritz, and you've just lost your mind.
Yeah, I guess like back in the early days, before I was running conventions, I remember briefly meeting Alex Ross at a UCAC, I think it was. And at the time, he'd just done, the Marvels. And I think that's probably in the 90s, wasn't it? Early 90s, something like that. Yeah, I was probably a bit starstruck at the time. I was quite young, and he was the man,
Oh, man. Excellent. Cool. Well, I mean, as always, everybody, if you do have questions for Shane, jump in and let us know, number one, where you're watching from, what you're up to, and any questions that come up through conversation, do let us know. Because I went to Thought Bubble last weekend, which was fun. Shane went to MCM Comic Con in Birmingham, but we'll talk about that very shortly indeed. Let's see who's actually joining us at the moment. We've got Solicitorous Meg. Sup, everybody. Hello there, everyone. Yeah, welcome along to Solicitorous Meg. And also say, Leonard coming for you from his doomsday bunker in an undisclosed location. Yes, it does look like that, doesn't it? This is what used to be my bedroom, which if I go like that, that gives you an idea. That's the width of it, and there's two of us. So we've moved out. We're now in the biggest room in the house. We're up in the attic. But this is now going to be kind of like my podcast room. We're going to get some decent posters up on the wall. The plan is, started moving the comics up as that thing. So that's going to be full of comics very shortly. But the idea is that we're going to get a bed in here. We're going to get a TV, which swings out. So I'm going to have the whole graphics thing on a TV in the background.
Oh.
As it happens, went to Thought Bubble last weekend. And as many people know here, my luck with my laptop is not great. And I have discovered that in the transit from Harrogate back to to home, to Inclekeaton, there's been a bit of pressure being put on the laptop screen and the outer shell and has split the screen. Which means at the moment, I'm currently running my laptop through, and I can't believe I'm saying the words out loud, a spare 40-inch 3D television, which I just happen to have lying around. And I'm not lying. I happen to have bought it cheap off eBay. So I've got this. That's why I'm so blue. I've got this big bloody monitor blaring at me. But yes, this is where I would usually then turn around and say, would you please, I don't know, jump on the Patreon and support us on that, or throw us a superstar, which I think is on YouTube, or any of those funny little ways that you can chip in. But bear with me, Shane. I'm just going to do a little bit of shilling for somebody, because because there's somebody who has not been in the best of shape over the last couple of years. She came over for Thought Bubble last year, and if you've met her at San Diego Comic Con, if you've met her at any conventions, you know that Leanne D, who's a regular viewer to the show, is not only a friend to nerds everywhere, but she's a genuine sweetheart. She's former military. She served her country proudly. She has had so many health issues. She's had her back against the wall. She really has. Leanne is just an absolute superstar, and we love her to death. Anyone who knows Leanne from joining us on the show, you know exactly what she's like. She's an absolute superstar. She's currently running a GoFundMe, so this is my kind of way of giving back to Leanne. I'm going to be chipping in. It's payday next week, so I'm going to be putting in my 5 pence. But basically, I'm going to put a link up here, and I know she's watching now, but please do consider even just a couple of pennies, a couple of dollars, whatever you can throw into the kitty, because she is a genuine superstar, and she deserves as much help as she can possibly get. GoFundMe, there's the code. If you can, please donate as much as you possibly can. I think that's just the message I can give to you from that. So there you go. Leave that up on the screen for a little while. But yeah, Leanne, you're a star. We love you, and please do chip in deep there. I mean, I know this is going to cost me about 300 quid to replace this screen. I know that. But it's 300 quid. I'll find the cash from somewhere. I don't need you guys to pay for that. The Patreon money that comes in goes to me writers, and I'm fine with it. I don't want you to pay for my goddamn laptop screen because I mispacked stuff at coming back from Thought Bubble. But there we go. There's the GoFundMe. Please do chip in as best you can. Well, actually, I mean, we'll dive into conventions. We'll talk about where we've got up to, and we'll start with yourself. We've got some. Yeah, you're probably the one that I'm very interested about this particular question. You went to MCM at Birmingham NEC. What days did you go, by the way?
I just went on the Sunday. I wasn't able to go on the Saturday, and it's somewhere I can go. Go in the same day and come back. 'Cause it's only in Birmingham, so it's like an hour away from where I live.
Indeed.
Yeah.
I mean, how familiar are you with the MCM convention setup?
Well, the first time I went to the MCM for the first time, 2007, I think, or 2008 was the first one I went to. It's obviously changed a lot since then. It's evolved. It's got bigger. It's been bought out. And then I've been in. I was talking to the organisers about doing some stuff with them a few years ago, and which obviously didn't happen. But I have been into the show through the back door, if you like, a few times. And yeah, so this time I went it's probably been about 5 years since I've been to an MCM. But it hadn't actually changed that much in the content.
So the last time you went, you'd been just as Repopper bought out?
No, the last time I went, it was before the buyout. Yeah.
Okay. So how do you feel the vibe had changed? Because I mean, certainly in the past, when I've gone to an MCM, they've really kind of angled towards the celebrity guests, celebrity signings, autographs, that kind of thing. They were just about leaning into anime and the Tokyo Pop kind of stuff. They were just about pushing into really embracing cosplay. MCM for now really is the big cosplay show. And you had Comics Village, which was like the independent roster for artists. How do you feel that's changed, certainly with your experience on Sunday?
Well, the last time I went, the Comics Village actually was great. That was a long time ago now, but I was impressed with the Comics Village at the time. That's obviously now gone. There's an artist's alley, which obviously has come from Repop.
They've gone full onto it then.
Yeah, but the hard thing about the artist's alley for me as a comics fan was that there weren't many comics there. Comics Village was obviously all about comics, so you had like a few hundred tables of comics publishers, which was fascinating. I spent a good day going around the Comics Village talking to people and really enjoyed it, you know. Oh, by the way, if you can send me that link for the GoFundMe,
absolutely,
I will put it. I will put it on my page as well.
Cool.
So it was a real disappointment, actually. I mean, the people I saw were great. I saw about 5 comics publishers at the Artist Alley, and the rest were all just artists selling prints, basically, or stuff that they'd made. And beautiful stuff, don't get me wrong. I would say 80% of it was manga type stuff. Lots of big eyes, lots of photoshopped images.
That seems to be the MCM model. They definitely skew towards that younger audience. I mean, if there's something you can really give them due props for, is really spotting the next generation of fandom, and really kind of like going, okay, this is a home for you. Come and join us at MCM. They've really leaned into that. So YA, manga, anime, very much something that they've gone, oh, there's the next market. Yeah, there you go. We'll have some of that.
They know their audience, basically.
Very much so.
And they play to that audience. And what did interest me, though, and I did say this in the show the other week, but I'll repeat it, is that the comics people who were there were doing really well because there weren't many of them. So there is a demand for comics and good comic art and interesting stories, and the people who want that, you know, I don't know how many people were there on the day. It was sort of in the tens of thousands. So when you've got those sort of numbers, even a small percentage, if they're into comics, that's still a lot of people who are looking for comics at the show. And some of them might be, you know, old farts like me. But I was talking to young kids we were going through the back issues, you know, and it was quite fun, actually. I had this one moment, I was going through the back issues, like the £1 bin, you know, in one of the stalls. And there was a young lad with his mum. And they were new to comics, you could tell that, but he was really enthusiastic. He must have been about, I don't know, 10 or 12, something like that. And he was picking out these comics, like completely like, oh, I just like that cover. I just like that cover, you know. But his mum was like, oh, I don't know. Is that one going to be worth something? Is like, you know. And I just leaned over to the kid and I just said, oh, by the way, the Avengers one's going to be worth a lot more than the other one. You know? And his mum was like, oh, thank you. I didn't have a clue, you know. But he was just going for what he liked, you know, which is great. And that kid is now going to go home and read some Avengers. It's great.
This is what Comic Cons need. They need kind of like wandering experts to just sort of like give it the full Antiques Roadshow bit. And kind of like tapping people on the shoulder and going, yeah, it's the speculation there. It's whereas I was fully expecting you to turn around and say, do you like it? Do you think it looks cool? Get it bought. There you go.
Yeah. Well, I was going with the flow, you know, because there was obviously an interest, you know. I mean, I remember when I was like 10 or 11, I used to buy comics and think, oh, they're going to go up in value and all that sort of stuff. It's something that can excite you when you're young, you know, and I know it excites people now, you know, they get into that. It's not really my motivation for buying comics anymore, at all, really. But if that's what gets kids involved, so be it. You know, it was just great to see a young kid buying old, you know, Avengers comics and reading good stuff. You know, I think it was an old Avengers, like one of the Roger Stern, Tom Palmer issues, you know, from the 80s. Yeah. And he was looking at some other stuff which was from the 90s, and it was like, there's no way that book is ever going to be worth anything. It was good fun.
Yeah, I think that there's a guy I follow on Twitter that posts what he finds in the dollar bins and over the course of and stuff that he finds at conventions. And every once in a while, there's like a, I don't know, Justice League #1 or a Batman #5 or something or other. And then every once in a while, it's like some strange off-color Howard the Duck meets Marvin the Martian mashup thing at like not, you know, it's like half a cent or something, and you just go, yeah, fine, if you're proud of that, get it bought. I mean, for myself, I mean, I'm really curious to hear. I mean, when I have been getting the feedback from people who have been exhibiting at MCM, especially the comics artists and the comics people, because I mean, they've got a dedicated stage there. You've got Louise Saul, who is a friend of the show. She did the panel hosting last weekend and apparently did a great job, had a fantastic time. For myself, the conversations I've been hearing from certainly the artists and the writers that have been exhibiting, the MCM shows, that's where the money is. They really do make some good cash, and that's really heartwarming to know that the money's flowing and there's some real interest and genuine interest. Thought Bubble, not so much apparently, but I think that's because there's a little bit more of that embarrassment of riches. So you get people coming through the door and going, wow, this is just incredible. I've only got 50 quid on me. Let me see what's in the next hall. Next hall. Holy shit, this is really incredible. Shit. I'll go into the next hall. I'll see what's in there. Oh crap, there's so much more. And next thing you know, they're like struggling to work out what to spend their money in because it's an embarrassment. But at least, like you say, if there's a slightly more slimmed down kind of selection, they're going to pick one and go, right, I like that. Bang, bosh. There you go. Money spent. So that's really cool.
People's budgets are finite, aren't they? And if you've only got 5 stalls to choose from, you could probably. I mean, I went and I bought something from every comics publisher that I saw. Nice. You know, so I just wanted to support them. You know, and I got some really nice stuff. And I also went through all the back issue boxes from the 4 back issue dealers that were there. You know, so it was a great day actually. I spent 4 hours, you know, just talking to people, buying comics, and really actually enjoyed it. And what I will say about the MCM is an incredibly friendly atmosphere, very welcoming. It was a bit of a queue, but the queuing wasn't difficult. It just took a while, that's all. But it was very well done, very well organized. I can't really fault it because it does what it sets out to do. There was a few celebrities who I'd never heard of, but obviously very famous in certain circles. And they seem to be making people very happy. There weren't really that many just sitting there twiddling their thumbs, which you can get sometimes at some of these big shows. So I think they did a pretty good job, really. It's probably not the sort of convention I would go to on a regular basis, but that's fine. It's not aimed at me, really. It ain't, like you said before, it's aimed at a much younger crowd, and it really does cater for that crowd very well.
Which kind of begs the question. I mean, we've got a question that's going to be coming up from Sir Lister Smeg, and we can kind of tie into that as well. The question is, how strict were you with masks at cons you set up during the pandemic? But we can also talk about the mask situation at MCM. Because I did see I saw a reasonable chunk of the ICECAST last episode. Didn't want to repeat too much, so I haven't watched it all the way through. I want to save something for the conversation. But what you were saying was it was a very polite and respectful audience for a crowd that size. Not so much in the way of masks.
No, I saw a few people with masks, but not many. That might be a Birmingham thing. Maybe in London there would be more people masked up. Obviously, the London MCM is a different beast. There's probably a lot more comics in London, and it's a bigger show. Although I was surprised how big the Birmingham show was. But not many masks. But then I don't see many masks around. Full stop. Usually, I suspect that now most people who mask up are people who are vulnerable, or who have family members who are vulnerable, who don't want to catch anything and then pass it on.
Sure.
And not everyone has access to continuous testing. I'm very lucky. I've got a lot of tests. So, if I go and visit my parents, I always test before I go. That's my way of protecting vulnerable people who I know. I'm not particularly worried about COVID because I've had it 2 or 3 times and I've not been that ill with it. I was actually more ill from the jab than I was from COVID, which is, there you go. But at my shows, I never had a chance to test out any policies because we didn't run the shows during COVID. It just never, to me, it wasn't viable. I know some organizers did do shows during that period, but for me, it just never seemed like a good idea. It just, personally, I felt it was a little bit irresponsible to run large shows with people in tight spaces in large numbers during a pandemic. It just didn't seem right to me. No. And I'm not judging anybody who did do it because I understand why they felt they probably had to. But for me, it just wasn't the sensible decision. And I think most of the people who used to come to our shows, agreed with that. You're always going to disappoint someone when you postpone a show, but I think that I'm glad that we went down that route. I think it was the right decision.
I mean, we'll also talk about the rest of the positives before I start talking about Thought Bubble and dive into that, because I do have piles of stuff which I want to show off because I did pick up. Rather fun. Oh yes, but can you talk about the things that you purchased? What was the highlights of things that you brought back from?
Sure, I actually did. I should have brought them into the room, shouldn't I? And show them on the screen.
Them off on Thursday on the ICECAST, which is available on numerous platforms, but mostly Facebook as well.
Yeah. Actually, if you watch the last episode, I do show off all my haul. Yeah. So it was a mixture, really. It was a lot of indie stuff, but a lot of old comics as well. I picked up some really nice, action comics from the 70s and 80s. What else? I filled in some gaps in my Hitman collection. I'm a massive Hitman fan, and for some reason, I've got this gap in my collection. I can't remember how it happened because I used to buy it as it came out, but I got this big gap in the collection, so I've been filling it up, every time I go to conventions, which was good. I'm trying to think of the names of the indie guys. There was one, Twisted Dark, which I think most people are pretty familiar with.
Oh crap! It's Neil. I can't remember his surname.
Neil.
Yes, I know. Yeah, very, very good.
I had a really good chat with Neil actually about the whole thing about being at MCM as an exhibitor and how it works, and he was really happy. He was one of those people who'd done really, really well, almost sold out of stuff because obviously I saw him on the Sunday.
Gibson, that's the man.
Yeah. So I bought one of those, which I'm looking forward to reading. I also bought a poker comic. I don't know if you've seen this. These guys have done this big, thick graphic novel of it's about like these contestants at a poker tournament, and it goes into each of their stories. It's set in Las Vegas. It's a bit of a, it's got a lot going on, you know. It's and I don't usually buy big, thick graphic novels on, you know, without knowing much about them. But I'm quite into poker. It's like a little bit of an online hobby, and so I had a sort of interest in the genre, I guess. And I think they'll probably do quite well out of it because there's a lot of people who are into poker, you know. But that looks really good. I'm really looking forward to reading that. And one called Gremlins, which is basically Gremlins, but set in the Second World War, from what I can tell. I haven't read it yet. Okay. It's a bit cheeky because the design is the same as the Gremlins design. I'm not sure how he gets around the legalities of that.
I'm sure he hasn't even tried.
No, probably not. But it's a great little comic. Great fun. Cool. So yeah, some really good stuff, and it was very encouraging to see, you know, indie guys. I mean, my other reason for going was to look for artists to work with through Scratch Comics, because that's what I'm doing now, as opposed to being an organizer. I'm doing more publishing. So that was the hard part, was finding artists to work with, because there weren't many sequential artists there. You know, that was the problem I found. But so that's just me.
More illustrators more than anything.
A lot of illustrators, some very good illustrators. One chap who I'd like to do some covers for us. But as far as sequentials go, there just wasn't anyone there, really. They only had one comic art guest as well, which was Nigel from
Nigel Parkinson.
Nigel Parkinson, yeah, who is the ultimate ambassador of the Beano. You know, he's fantastic. Had a really good chat with him in the 10-minute gap that he had. You know, again, somebody else who did really well from being the only one. There was a constant interest in him. He was constantly doing commissions. You know, he said, you know, I don't know, this is like a lot of work. But you can't complain, can you, when you're doing really well at a show like that? Absolutely. So yeah, a real positive there for Nigel, you know. But it would be lovely to see more comic artists on Artists Alley, you know.
I think this is just the fight that shows like MCon, shows like let's think what else, MCon, MCM, those shows that set their stall out for the pop culture.
Yeah,
audience.
And Wales Comic Con's another one.
Wales Comic Con, they've done. I mean, James done immense efforts to try and get comic artists, and really I think that's that fight to try and break through that market. I think that's always going to be a difficult thing to do. But yes, but I mean, it's great to hear that MCM are still making strides. I mean, when Repop bought MCM, they did have that 1 year where they just went hell for leather. They spent tens of thousands of pounds on getting international guests, some major international guests, Amanda Connor, Jimmy Palmiotti, Frank Miller, Chris Claremont, the whole shebang. It really was a major year. And I think even for Scotland, they got Donny Cates and somebody whose name I completely forget. So there you go, every single time. But no, they just they always went or have gone out for that first year. And I'm just wondering if they're going to try. I think they're trying now to just get that engine going up again, just try and get that running.
I think it's hard for them. I mean, I don't know all the stats, and I don't know, you know, it's hard because I don't know all the facts, but just as an outsider looking in, it looks as though they've tried to do things with comic artists, you know, big international names, as you say, but that's not their core audience, you know. No. So it might have almost backfired, and that, you know, the people who go to MCM don't really want that. So not in the majority anyway. So they didn't gain anything from it, perhaps. And then the people who do want that don't go to MCM. So it's like a catch-22 almost for them, perhaps. It's like, because I saw a lot of comments on the MCM, you know, Facebook when they announced some of these big comic names, and some of it was quite hostile from the fans. You know, oh, we don't want this. This is not MCM, and then you had other people saying, oh, what? how dare they try and do comics? You know, it's like, oh, come on. They're
Can't
trying.
win.
You can't win. So I think that might have happened a little bit. And so at the end of it, they probably looked at the figures afterwards and said, you know what? We didn't actually, our investment in these big names didn't pay off. Whereas
No.
I know if I, you know, when I used to do ICE, if I'd have got Frank Miller or Chris Claremont, oh my God, I just sold out in days, you know, because my aim was lower. You know, I could sell out my venue with, you know, very quickly
Sure.
with a guest like that. So it's a different crowd. You know, when you've got a crowd who are totally into comics, you get Frank Miller or Chris Claremont, you sell your tickets, you know, and that's, and you're happy. If your crowd is, you know, not that, then it's not going to really impact your numbers. So I probably wouldn't blame them for saying, you know what, we didn't really gain much from doing this, so maybe we won't continue to do it. I don't know, but I'm sort of guessing that
No,
might have
I think you're
happened.
about right. I think you're about right. I mean, in the other camp, then a show which is all about comics, Thought Bubble sold very well, very early doors when they did announce some incredible names straight out the gate. So my turn now. Here we go. Let's talk about the other convention that took place. This is last weekend. Shane went to MCM on the Sunday. I went to Thought Bubble for the full duration. I got there on Friday afternoon, and basically I had myself one hell of a weekend. I mean, to be fair, this was also a bit of a blowout for myself and Caroline because, well, frankly, we wanted to get the most out of it before Christmas. This was going to be kind of like our last hurrah, our last break away. But what we got to see in Harrogate was something very special. It is the largest convention, comic-centric in the UK. Thought Bubble held at the convention centre in Harrogate, and I had plenty of books to get signed. I'm going to show you my pile in a bit because, I don't need to see that, but yeah, they had lots of social events, lots of like a quiz night that is happening here, and you've got one or two known celebs in the corner. You've got the likes of Comixology hosting it as well, Mark Bernardin showing up, Jock showing up as well, and yeah, so oh yeah, there we go. Gives you an idea as well. Some themed cocktails, which I did indulge in. I'm not going to lie, I think I got bollocks 3 nights on the trot. So I can't exactly begrudge it, frankly, but no, I had a great time and really enjoyed it. Now, yes, Northern Monk were giving out these beers. They gave out a number of them at an Ian Kennedy exhibition that was held actually in the art exhibition that was held directly opposite our hotel. So we stepped out of the hotel and that's where it was, which means when I do come on to ICECAST on Thursday, I'm going to be necking that. Just to let you know, that's on the way. I did it last year, and when Jock did their special one, and yeah, this Ian Kennedy tribute tin, and I've got one to hand. I will be necking that on Thursday. So if you want to watch me get slightly tiddly, you're more than welcome to join us on Thursday for the ICECAST. So yeah, there's that. But no, I think the thing that's obviously which people are very excited about is getting to see as many people as possible. Oh yeah, get through all that. What on earth is this all about? Yeah. Oh good God, where am I? Oh no, this is all the stuff that I was picking up. Hang on, I'm going to get rid of that, and I'll come back to it. Hang on, because I want to show me bits of the stuff that I picked up, and the people I got to see, because just the amount of sheer comics guests that were involved was just truly spectacular. From the likes of Scott Snyder, from Mark Bernardin, from G. Willow Wilson, who I got to see and meet kind of once, purely because I was interviewing Christian Ward and she was trying to get past me. So she just kind of like almost booted me out of the way. But you know what? I was more than happy with that. Gail Simone, which was a really cool person to meet. And I managed to get to spend some time interviewing these people. So it was really good to have the people that were involved and really kind of getting really into enjoying comics and meeting creators who you wouldn't necessarily get to see elsewhere. Martin Simmons, Obviously, as the creative Department of Truth, they were on hand to spread their wares. Ram V, meeting a young fan there. It was just a really cool way to kind of meet some really cool and interesting people. Gail Simone, like I say. And not only that, but it was busy. It was very impressive to see as many people really excited into comics and really getting involved in the whole process. This is an interesting photo. You may notice a lot of people wearing the headphones there. It was a silent disco setup, which means you had no PA. They had the microphones, but everything was just getting beamed straight into your earballs. So it was just all nicely intimate, and they didn't have to shout. And it was all
cool.
it was just really, it wasn't a loud room like you would usually sometimes expect when you have.
It's a great idea, that, because it deals with the problem that football have always had in the past, was that, you know, their events were in the hall, so you couldn't hear what the speakers were saying, and that's totally solved that problem.
Yeah.
It's great.
Really, really cool. I mean, Leanne D saying, yeah, totally different from last year, and it was. Yeah, really cool to have that space set up. Let me just go through and see what else we've got here. Oh, yeah, there we go. You got Scott Snyder, you got David Arja there. Oh, yeah, very quickly. I know that some people did think they were going to be tuning in to see Scott Snyder. Scott is currently underwater. He's no, it's not a case of that. He's currently dealing with a flood. So it's all about priorities.
Wow.
It's either talking to us or dealing with a flood in his house. So no, he's got priorities to deal with. So
good luck, Scott.
David, yeah, David Ajar. You've got Declan Shelby at the far corner as well. You've got some real cool people showing off their wares. Declan Shelby there, who, by the way, Declan Shelby and Scott Snyder can talk. Just to let you know, which is why their lines were supposed to be like 2 hours long. 5.5 hours later, they were still signing books. Oh, they were really kind of taking their time. Good, and it's great because you got to spend some real time with these creators. That was great. And of course, the Comixology Mid-Con party. Hey, get in there, lad. Get in there. Russell Hillman there. First one on the floor, first one off. There you go, Mr. Rich Johnson holding court with Scott Snyder and Kieran Gillen there. Yeah, nice and busy. Everyone getting involved. Everyone having a great time. Lisa was the DJ, even though you've got Lee Garbett trying to interrupt and get his request in. That was never going to happen. Yeah, that was one of the funniest things. I actually had Scott Snyder coming up to me and saying, listen, how much sway do you have with Lisa? I said, not much. How much sway do you think I have? Not a great deal at all. And said, yeah, me and the son, we want to hear some 90s hip hop. So I went over to Lisa and I said, Tula, Lotte, sorry, and said, yes, can you please play some 90s hip hop, please? Scott's asking. And she threw me a look which would stun Bison and just go, no. And just ice cold look at me, and I felt my blood go cold. And I went over to Scott and I went, yeah, that was never going to happen, mate. Sorry, it's no. I'm afraid I can't help you on that one. And he went, okay, let me. And he wandered over, and about 5 minutes later, Tribe Called Quest came on. So there's a definite difference between myself and Scott Snyder.
Some charm there.
Well, there's that as well, isn't there? But no, all in all, it was just a really cool show, and the opportunity I got. I mean, I was going to bring up some photos there. I got all the books I took with me to get signed, with 2 exceptions. 2 books I didn't get signed. The amount that I got signed actually stunned me by the time I got back, because I was just absolutely staggered by how much I actually got. I mean, my full Nocterra and Undiscovered Countries signed. Wow. Declan Shelby doing a rather nice sketch inside, so a nice little conchu.
That's nice.
My full hang on, there we are. My full One Dark Night collection. Thank you very much indeed, Jock. Signing those. Me Aquaman Andromedas. So I managed to get my Ram V and my Christian Wars. All really cool. It was great to get those books signed. But I'm not going to lie, the headlines was definitely the books that I picked up. This is where I'm going to make a slight detour because over the course of the week, I have been announcing that I had lost a bag.
A bag of comics.
A bag of comics. I spent quite a bit on it, and I lost a bag of comics. Somebody found it and has mailed it to me. They looked inside and recognized they looked online and went, "Oh yes, it's him," and they've mailed it to me. They don't want to be revealed, but because they don't want to be embarrassed online. But yeah, they sent it to me. They mailed it through. So that's really
fantastic. Doesn't it amaze you how good people can be sometimes?
Absolutely.
I had a similar thing once. At a Brighton show, I had a sketch from Tonino Liberatore, which I lost. I can't remember how I lost it. And I put an appeal out saying that this sketch has just gone, and it came in the mail. I just couldn't believe it. It's just unbelievable. Fantastic. There are some good people out there,
aren't there? Just, which is why I'm now going to show the bag contents, which I pretty much can show off. Number one, I think I did an interview with Mr. Mark Jackson. So Space Farts.
Mark's great.
I'm sorry, just for the title, I was going to buy it.
It's great.
Come on, it's Space Farts. But the reason why I was even more curious when I did the interview, because in the past, as always with his work, he just goes through. He plots the book out, writes it, and makes a comic. But what he did with this, he actually just came up with a whole bunch of illustrations, no text. And he just sort of like drew what he wanted and then added the text later and the story and constructed the story around the illustration.
That's cool.
So it's a real kind of like experiment. I thought that was really cool.
I like that.
Some Mondo stickers, which are patches, which let's see. Right. Gustavo Vargas. I'm sure you're aware of his work. I got the full set. The reason why I got the full set is because I'm going to give that as a Christmas present to someone. That's the full set. And he was going around and he was taking a bag of his books to other artists, such as James Tynion IV, and he was kind of explaining what his work is all about. And I was sort of like standing back, and I was just going, "James, get it bought. They're awesome." And he went, "Oh, right, so it's a definite sell then." And he just opened it up and he went, "Oh, okay." You know what I mean? I've just opened up that at random. Peruvian cyborg sci-fi, just amazing. The man's a talent.
He's an original. He's a total original. I'll give
Absolutely
him that.
Incredible. Yeah. Mike Garley, which I've been told is an incredibly personal edition of Samurai Slasher. So I've got that to read. So late fees, I've got that to do. I've got to go through that. I'm sure you're aware of Mr. Russell Mark Olson as well.
Yes.
So we've got Gateway Cities, mashed up things with a nice little card inside, which was rather cool. A flat cap on an alien. So no, I'll take a flat cap off an alien. So that's rather cool. And probably one of my favorite books, which I picked up. This was actually a present from someone because he wasn't taking any kind of PayPal. He was only taking cash at the time, and I didn't have any cash at that point. You may be aware of a work by Si Spurrier called Step by Bloody Step. Are you aware of
that one? Yeah.
Oh, that one indeed. That book was published by Image. It is a unique book and a unique experiment in that it is a book with no dialogue. It's a dialogue-free book. It was an experiment of his because he's known for his very literary and very wordy scripts. He knows the English language and he knows how to use it well. So he wanted to challenge and he wanted to just see if he could do a silent comic, which he did. Step by Bloody Step. I bought all 5 of bought variants. I am a fan of that book, which is why when he had on his table a slightly oversized edition in hardback, a French translation of a silent book with no dialogue in it.
What's the translation for?
I couldn't stop laughing. I went, I've got to have it because that just tickled me. Something from a French translation of a book with no dialogue in it. But Matt Bagheera has just done some phenomenal work in that. Yeah, so that's now in my collection.
I'm
so
a big fan of silent comics, actually. There was one. Have I got it here?
Go for it.
There
Oh,
was
you
one
got
I
the sculptor.
bought. I'm near my bookshelf, so we might get lucky.
I'm seeing the sculptor there, so it's a quality bookshelf to start with.
It's not all that good, but
oh, sure.
Where is it? There it is. Bought this when I was at 2D in Northern Ireland a while ago. Mr. Amberduke.
Oh yes.
Do you remember that one?
I do.
An absolutely superb Bob Byrne, an absolutely superb silent comic that I've read. Say read.
Sorry, I'm looking at the appropriate comment. Solicitor Meg, can you hear a fart in space? And every fart in space is silent but deadly. So yeah, it's slightly appropriate. Slightly appropriate comments there.
Very good. There but a great story. Great story. I highly recommend.
Very much so. Yeah. The show itself. We were talking about masks. There were very few people wearing masks throughout. I think it was more a case of those, like you say, that felt that they could be taking something back to a loved one or a family member. They didn't want to pass anything on. So a couple of people were, but the vast majority of people at Thought Bubble, in stark contrast to Thought Bubble 2021, where it was fully masked up, but just what you got from that as a contrast was interesting to see. The fact that there was very few people masked up. Let's see if I can bring this on.
When you were going through all your stuff there, Len, I couldn't help but think to myself, you went to the better show. For me, anyway. I as much as I loved my day in MCM, I can't help but be envious of all those lovely goodies that you got at Thought Bubble and all the people that you met. I mean, there's a lot of people you met that, some of them are friends and some of them are people I'd like to meet. It's definitely more my type of show. Let's put it that way.
Sure. No, I think it's cool to get out of your comfort zone every once in a while. Although if you'd have given me a toss-up between MCM and those are the two I didn't get. That's the lot I did. And that lot. And that lot.
Wow, you did well.
I'm staggered at how well I did, but there we go. No, it's just a case of if I had the choice, I think I went to the right show as well. Chloe, Martha, and the rest of the team did a phenomenal job. They were really not sure because 2021 it was definitely a show where it had been online for a couple of years. We'd been through pandemic. There was a lot of anticipation. We didn't know what we were going to expect. People were really jived, and there was a real weird energy in the room last year. This year, it almost felt back to normal, he says in inverted quotes, whatever normal is nowadays. But this felt like this is the default of what Thought Bubble is. And the default happens to be fucking amazing. You know what I mean? It kind of like you got a sense of it. To the point where I've got an interview with Chloe. And it just been when they had the big announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for coming to Thought Bubble. And the entire room just exploded with a round of applause. Martha and Chloe were in tears. They were just blown away at how smoothly it had gone. And it was just it was moving and encouraging to see that comics are still alive and well.
Oh yeah.
And there's the fandom out there that will appreciate it if you build it, they will come, and they did in their droves. I mean, I don't know if you've got any questions for yourself for me. Come on, then. You can interview.
I'm interviewing you now.
Go for it.
Well, I want to save some for Thursday, obviously. But
sure.
Okay, a general question, I suppose, Len, because you've met a lot of people over the years, a bit like myself. You've encountered a lot of artists and writers. Who would you say was the most sort of rewarding person that you've met in your travels?
Oh, right. Experience, generally. I think I'm going to say rewarding. I mean, Scott Snyder was incredibly generous with what he had to say, because he came on and he'd gone back and watched about 5 or 6 of the episodes, and he kind of became a fan and became a subscriber, and he genuinely likes what I do, so that's rather encouraging.
That's nice. Yeah.
Chris Ryle from IDW.
I love Chris. He's a lovely guy.
He's been incredibly generous with his time. I think when it comes to getting back, I mean, this is going back to Leanne, actually. Chris Claremont, who was incredibly generous to Caroline, was, I mean, that was really cool what he did for Caroline, but also a video that he recorded for Leanne as well. So he took his time with us, so that was really good. There's been a number of ones that have been just really rewarding, but there hasn't been one that just stands out, because they've all just been amazing, and I've just been very, very lucky and incredibly grateful. I mean, the fact that I can now sort of like go up and talk to Kieran Gillen as somebody who, well, I don't know if he considers me a friend. I mean, I'm a friend, but he kind of like, he doesn't look at me and say, go away. So that's all
Kieran's far too polite to do that, I'm sure. He's a lovely guy.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, the fact that I got to sit down with Scott Snyder and just some really cool people. It's just really Will Dennis from Comixology, and formerly of, well, still is with DC, I believe. Still an editor with DC. Very, very cool. I've just been very, very lucky, I think, and I long may it continue. Frankly, I'm gonna ride this train until they kick me off screaming.
That sort of leads to my next question for you, actually, Len.
Go for it.
I mean, because obviously now we've rebooted comics conventions in a way. We had this massive gap, and they went away for a while. Now they're coming back, and you see Thought Bubbles come back with a vengeance. So the big events have survived, but a lot of the smaller events, I mean, obviously myself included, but that was sort of, I chose to leave. But a lot of smaller events have also disappeared, or they've got even smaller, or they're struggling still. How do you see it developing in the future? Do you think it'll ever get back to the heyday before the pandemic, or do you think it's just going to, stay at the level it's at? Do you see that level of growth returning?
I would love to, but I struggle to see it. I think the community that was built up at conventions, certainly around small press and indie, yes, there are plenty of those that are held under the umbrella of Thought Bubble. Obviously, you've got the big names that bring them in, and then you can kind of like spread your wings and see the independent productions and the independent creators, which is great. And the networking. I mean, I was saying that the sales may not have been. I mean, apparently everyone left not skint, so bonus.
Isn't it?
Absolutely, but the fact that they, it was more networking and making friends and making connections, finding new artists, new creators. I think that's rather cool. But for the smaller show, I think that community has now moved online, which is where your Kickstarter, your crowdfunding, it's now with some of those books, it's not about the books. It's about the community supporting each other, and it becomes a very nebulous kind of creation when it comes to crowdfunding and social media as well. I mean, I think we can agree it's actually a rather small cottage industry. It's not as big as we would like to think it is.
Yeah, I think it's easy to get swept away, and think that it's bigger than it is. Especially when you get really good feedback, and you maybe you have a good crowdfund campaign, and you start to believe that this is bigger than we thought it was. When in fact, as you say, it's quite a small group of people in this country anyway, who are heavily into indie comics. Very dedicated, very loyal, and a really nice community of people. But it is quite small, and it doesn't seem to grow that much. It sort of changes, you know. What happens is you'll get people who go outside of that and grow out into a more mainstream audience, but then they tend to leave the indie audience. You know, that can happen, I think, sometimes, which is a shame. You know, it's nice to keep in touch with your roots, but I think it's inevitable sometimes. So yeah, by its very nature, I think it will remain quite small, and I think you're quite right, you know, about the conventions, those people going online. You know, I mean, I went to Nottingham Comic Con the other week, which was a tiny amount of people, but a lovely bunch of people. You know, I spoke to there's probably only about, I don't know, 150 people there, but everyone came to the tables. They went around all the tables. You could speak to everybody, and people bought stuff. You know, did just as well with a small number of people as I would for thousands of people selling, because at the end of the day, you know, it's the same number of people. But I found that a really nice event, but it's very small now. I mean, I've been told, I haven't been before, but I've been told that in the past Nottingham was a really, really well attended, you know, event, you know, with a lot of people. Obviously it clashed with the MCM in London, which probably didn't help, because they probably just like gave away half of
there was that kind of period where there was a convention every weekend and a couple of conventions every weekend, and that the kind of shot itself in the foot by kind of stepping on itself. So it's a shame that there isn't some kind of like central organizing committee for conventions to kind of like just go, okay, let's just divvy it out a bit so people can kind of attend.
Any sort of attempt for that just gets trodden on, you know.
Listen, dude, if we even talk about the world of if we stick the word union and comics in the same sentence, things go horribly wrong. So,
they do.
So there we go. So Into the Blue Mister, I like small conventions. Solicitor Smeg, the sad part is it could be huge. We have to find a way to get kids involved, and there just aren't enough comics kids for them anymore. That I'm actually going to disagree with, because slowly but surely there is that recognition of the next audience. Let's put it this way. Where is it? Where have I put it? I did put it. I picked it up. I'm going to pick it back up again, because anytime I get the chance to say space farts, that's not for me. That's for kids, man. That's for enjoying yourself and having a blast and reading comics. Phoenix. There's definitely, I believe, an evolution happening.
Definitely. I mean, the best-selling comics in the UK are all kids' comics.
Correct.
You know, and the Beano does really well now. But I think what it is maybe that there's not much mainstream choice on the newsstand, because a lot of those big titles some of them haven't got any comic strip in them anymore. You know, they're just puzzles and things like that. You still got the Beano, you've got the Phoenix, and you've got a few other occasional titles, and then you've got the teen stuff as well, which is mostly reprint. There's nothing wrong with that. I got into comics through reprints on the newsstand. It's a great way of getting people into comics. But I think the mainstream access is maybe not as good as it was. But then again, how kids come into contact with media in general is different to how we did. You know, I think there is a lot online. I think there's a lot to be said for stuff like webtoons.
Web comics, absolutely.
Yeah,
definitely. I even got into. I mean, I think it was Alison Sampson that did a Marvel. I think it was Marvel or DC, and she did a web comic or a mobile reading experience. And she was talking with me about it and about how it changes her storytelling technique, about how like panel reveals and how the story can then be drawn literally. And that's an interesting idea, and the way that's all kind of like evolved, and that all starts working out. No, I think that's very I mean, there is a different audience out there, and I think it's cool that it's being embraced. I think what the point is with the comment, it'd be great to get them geared, perhaps to come into Thoughtful and have more to kind of like get them involved and get them appealed.
Because they do enjoy it as well. That's the thing, Len. I mean, when we did Comics Salopia, we had a very heavy like kids section. You know, the library was totally for kids, and we got we got Peppa Pig and all that, and Beano.
Mark Jackson with Kapow does a great roaring emphasis on the kids and the young.
So you can engage them in the shows. You've just got to put some focus into it. That's all. You've got to make it welcoming for kids and parents, because that's who you're selling to as well. You know, you've got to make it. I mean, when we did the manga workshops for, admittedly, it was slightly older kids with Sonia. They sold out like that. You know, the massive demand for those. I mean, we could have sold those until we were blue in the face. People just there was a waiting list. You know, people really, young people of between the ages of sort of 10 to 15. That huge demand for manga workshops, and just an interest in general in manga. And I know some people might disagree, but to me, manga is just comics.
Yeah, no, it's sequential art storytelling. Yeah, damn right. Just happened to be going in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
We'd be reading, but we've got Perpetual Comics evening. It was great to meet you at Thought Bubble. Yeah, likewise with yourselves. And yeah, if you haven't checked out the Killer Comics show, it needs a bigger audience. Very, very good crew. Perpetual Comics. I'm annoyed that I didn't get your autograph. Okay. You have a very strange perception of my sway, sir. But thank you very much indeed for your comment. It's very much appreciated. I remember Marvel did a few Nuff Said silent comics a few years ago, and a memorable Batman issue in the 90s as well. Yeah, I like a good silent comic where it is all about the storytelling. It was very much a thought experiment for himself. Just as I think Harry Potter is, by the way. I don't think she was thinking that through. She literally just went, oh, can I go from Harry and Harry chase the ball, look at Harry chase the ball, to War and Peace. It was the evolution. That's Trans Lives Matter. What else? We've got Leanne D. Definitely a lot different than last year. It just means I have to come back next year. We would love to have you, and absolutely. What Thought Bubble will then evolve into, because I do know, speaking to Chloe, that she does want to kind of get more of the publishers involved, because there was definitely that sense of the publishers under the previous regime. It was a case of more about the artists, more about the creators, rather than focusing on the big two and Image. I mean, Image did have a present, but it was only because they had a lot of the Image talent there. So they kind of piggybacked on that. I think they do want to try and get them back in and try and get some more of the publishers involved. Comixology have been a big supporter, but then again, obviously Lisa and Scott and a bunch of people have got that relationship with them. Solicitor Smeg, does anyone see a disaster comic dealing with water coming from Scott Snyder soon? Into the Blue Mister. He has done that already with The Wake, and that's a very good book.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was a good book.
So there we go. All in all, I think it was just a really. Sounds like you had a great time. I had a great time for various differing reasons. We got out of the house.
We did.
We got to enjoy
good to do that.
Some really cool stuff, and I think that's all we can really ask for. So let's send MCM all the very best for their future efforts, and let's just keep your eyes open for Thought Bubble 2023. I would like.
I hope to be there.
I'd like to apologize to everybody for the fake flyer that I put up, because I just went, is there a way that we can sort of like wish list this guest list into reality? And I just put like Alan Moore and Neil. I just put everybody in there. At which point, about 4 or 5 people saw it and just went, "Holy shit, is that real?" And just
where can I get tickets?
I had Chloe Green sort of messaging me going, "You can take that down. you can take that down right now." Sorry. Okay. Sorry about that. So
it's incredible, though, isn't it? The wish lists. I used to do that with ICE in the early days. Like, who would you like to see? And I get a nice selection of possible guests, but it was usually people who are either don't do conventions at all, are dead, or live on the other side of the world, and there's no way we could possibly get them. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
this is my list of people I want at the convention. It's like, man, if I could get those people, don't you think I'd have them there? You know?
I wish I could just read out who I put on the list, but no,
Oh.
I think just saying it out loud would just be a bad idea, and I'd get
Yeah.
Chloe definitely saying. But no, when I go next year, I mean, I got asked by Rich, I got asked by Ollie why I don't go as press. I want to give back, and I want to attend it as a punter, and I did, and I had a great time. So
good on you, mate. I admire that, because I was talking to Ollie about it at the show last week, and I was asking him about the queue and what it was like. He goes, "I don't queue, I just swan in."
Dude, that's part of the whole. I mean, I think I've told this story on the podcast before, and I'll share it with yourself. And I think anytime you ask, I'll tell this story. I got press a couple of years at San Diego Comic Con. And because of the way that my interview schedules were going off, and the way it was just getting so busy, I wasn't going to be able to make it to the Saturday in Hall H. And I did want to check out some of the big presentation in Hall H, and I wanted to do Hall H on the weekend. At which point I got told about the press entrance through the side, and I went, well, I'm not going to be able to get in. I'm Mr. Piddly Boy. No one knows who I am. I'm not going to be able to do that. At which point, I think I had a friend of mine who works for Gizmodo who turned around and said, yeah, tag on with me, which means I didn't do the queuing up. I didn't do the camping out overnight, and I was 5 seats from the front, and I felt like such a goddamn fraud.
Oh.
I ended up not really enjoying it because I felt like I hadn't earned it.
Oh, mate! If someone invites you and gives you that pass, then you've definitely earned it, because they perceive you as being worthy of it. You know, I mean, I used to get people
suckers
ask for passes at ICE, who, you know, oh, I've done a couple of blog posts on something, you know, and that's no, you're not getting it. But when somebody is like yourself, who's just dedicated, you know, to promoting conventions and promoting comics, as far as I'm concerned, yes, of course you get a press pass. You know.
Fair enough. I'll accept that, and I will dismiss it because I'm not there. I don't feel I'm there. Imposter syndrome kicking in. So we'll leave it there. So that's really cool. Now listen. Well, there's a couple of things that we want to talk about. Yeah, let's go into this. Into the Blue Mister. Quick mention on the passing of Kevin O'Neill. As an old school 2000 AD fan, this one hurt. I got to shake his hand at SDCC 2014 and had the chance to thank him for the huge influence on my childhood. Absolutely. I mean, we've had some major losses over the course of recent time. The two that I was also going to mention as well, Kevin Conroy, who I think is arguably one of the definitive Batman performances in Solicitor Megan Z. Kevin Conroy as well. I mean, my particular story my first story with Kevin Conroy, met him at the press room for The Killing Joke, because he was obviously doing the voice of Batman. At which point, because we'd had like 2 or 3 tables before he showed up, I was being rather cheeky. It was a Saturday afternoon. I was being a little bit, you know, I was being a bit. I was giddy. I'm not going to lie. I was a cheeky lad, playing up to the room, playing up to the table. And every time we were asking like a big question, once we got the sycophantic questions from 1 or 2 people around the table out of the way, it was a case of asking a big question about the story and about what they'd done with The Killing Joke to make it a feature film. And every time we got the question out, it was a case of the person about to answer the question and say, okay, we've got to take them away now. Shit, we've lost all that. So Kevin Conroy sits down, and this idiot turns around and goes, so does Joker kill Batman at the end of this one or what?
Straight into it.
And he just looked at me and went, well, there's always one, isn't there? And the second part of that, he was invited over to Wales Comic Con last year, and it was about a week before it got announced about his participation as a writer in the DC Pride annual, which it was his first time he'd written a comic strip, a comic, and it was deeply personal about his homosexuality in Hollywood. and how he had taken the spirit of Batman and really ran with it as a soul-defining moment, and that was rather cool. That was very cool. Into the Blue Mister, Carles Pacho as well, artist from Aerosmith. I've got Aerosmith up there. That hurts because that not only was he taken too young, but also just a phenomenal talent that was just continuing to put out some amazing.
Still making strides in his art as well.
Right. And the last one for me, I mean, it's just like I say, it's just been a terrible week for all of this. Learned only in the last couple of hours, David Jason Frank, Power Ranger, White Ranger, Green Ranger, and my experience with him is he was invited over by Lee for one of the first, or the first MCon show that I panel hosted. Lee was very generous in taking a punt on me. He was the first person to hire me as a panel host at Comic Con, and I was doing pop culture, but I went in both feet, and I really enjoyed it. And what he brought to that show, and that the warmth and the generosity to his fans, Jason David Frank, it's just a sad loss, and just a shame. We've had so many losses in the last couple of weeks, and across the whole gamut of comics and pop culture. And from us, I'm certain from Shane and from myself, to their fans, to their family and friends, our deepest condolences.
Definitely.
There we go. Right. On that joyful, happy note, let's wrap things up and sort of like say this is part one. We have got part two on the way. If you want to give that big pitch, then go on in. If you want to talk about ICECAST and where people can find it.
So this was just a little bit of a warm up for. I'm kidding, mate.
You are aware I'm on the earlies this week, right? I'm not stopping until 10 or 12. Jesus.
So 8 p.m. This coming Thursday, we will be welcoming Mr. Sultana to the show, and we'll be talking about lots of different stuff. It's quite an irreverent show sometimes. We talk about
that's what I'm looking forward to. That's the bit I'm looking for. I do kind of structure my questions, my interviews on this, but I'm looking forward to it going in all sorts of goddamn directions. I'm up for this.
We talk about all sorts. Obviously, comics is the focus, but we like to get to know our guests a little bit as well, and we ask some questions that maybe other shows wouldn't ask. They're not too probing, but we like to have a bit of a laugh.
So Englishman After Dark on Thursday.
That's it. So we're hoping.
Where is your big? I mean, my big audience is on YouTube because people do jump in on the Q&A. Where's your big audience?
It's mostly Facebook, I would say. I mean, we do go to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. So it's quite a small audience on Twitch, but there is an audience on there. Facebook, we can sometimes get, over 1,000 people watching after the show. We don't get a lot live, but we get a lot of people sort of afterwards, dipping their toe in. But it's spread around. I didn't think we had a very big audience until I went to Nottingham, actually, funnily enough, and a few people came up to me and said, I watch the show almost every week and really enjoy it. And they've never, they never commented or anything like that, so I didn't really know they were there. And it's not like, if you're YouTube only, you've got your subscribers and you've got your numbers, and it's like, okay, I can see that's how many we get. But with Facebook, it's a bit different because it's all over the place, Sure. And you can't always see all the numbers, and you can't see who they are. So it was really nice to know that people are coming and watching. But I'm hoping that we will get to know the real Leonard Sultana on Thursday.
Okay, so anybody who's got a half-decent legal team, if they want to join in, I'm certain there'll be something I'll say that will get some traction there. Okay, I'm down for that. Leonard's going to Irish up his tea for your show. I can't drink, not when I've got 6 o'clock start the next day. It's not going to happen. I mean, I can drink that, but it's going to be early. It's going to be early doors. It'll be necked in the first half an hour.
We'll try not to keep you too late. We always try and keep the show down to like 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
You know, keep it. I mean, some of them went on. We talked to Jim Shooter, I think, nearly 2 hours. And same with John. Oh my God, I can't remember his surname. I'm not going to attempt to remember now. But you know, there's been a couple of people who we've spoke to for much longer because the conversation just went on and we were all up for it, you know. So we're not strict, but obviously when we know someone's got to get up for work the next morning, we try and take that into account, you know.
Fair enough. Well, I appreciate the generosity. No, I'm looking forward to it. It is ICECAST / An Englishman in San Diego Part 2 on Thursday. Do join us. Search for it on the socials and check it out. And just to add on, because myself and Shane, we both use StreamYard. Number one, have you seen this whole business about local recordings? That's rather cool. So yeah,
I must have missed that news.
Oh yeah, all local recordings, so you can re-edit it and it all looks pretty. But no, I also stream out to LinkedIn. So I'd like to say hello to the dust mite that says hello to watches me on LinkedIn, because I can imagine that my audience on that particular platform ain't the greatest. I'd like to say hi to you anyway.
Oh. Every audience member counts, don't they, Len?
If it was the dog on a stick is a dog on a string, sorry, on LinkedIn. Yeah, it's great to have you here.
What I will say before we go is just if anyone wants to familiarize themselves with ICECAST first before the show, get yourselves onto YouTube, follow the channel, because there's a massive backlog of stuff, interviews with real, you know, top artists and some really cool indie folks, and it'll give you an idea if it's the kind of thing you want to tune in for on Thursday.
Listen, I would highly recommend it. I mean, Shane's got the connections. Comic Book Sam's got the connections, so they always could pull some great. Well, Ollie thinks he's got the connections. Yeah, they always pull some really great guests in. So no, I really highly recommend it, checking it out. Into the Blue Mister. Yeah, Leonard's interview with Bill Sienkiewicz was meant to only last an hour, and look how that went. Yeah, 2.5 hours later, and it blinked. We blinked.
Brilliant. I watched that. That was a great show. Yeah.
Good show. So there we go. That's us. Thank you very much indeed for watching today. I hope you've enjoyed it. As always, please do like, subscribe, hit the notifications, go down below, do what you need to do so you know that we are live each and every week. And you can do that by going to youtube.com/@ or ampersand. Yeah, not just a hat rack, my friend. Englishman SDCC. Also, I did kind of allude to this earlier as well. I don't know if Twitter is still going to be around in the near coming days or weeks. Frankly, if somebody is going to invite a gorilla into your living room to take a dump on that dining room table, then it's probably a good idea to leave the party. If that is the case, you can find me on Mastodon. Englishman SDCC at mastodon.social. Please do follow me along there if you wished. I'm going to do my best to create a convention collective account as well, but that involves me inviting myself. Don't ask, I have no idea, but yeah, do follow us on Mastodon as well. And I think last but not least, once again, that reminder, please, Leanne, she needs the help. She has had a back against the wall for the last couple of years. She's just not had the best of luck at all, and she just needs as much help as she can. GoFund.me/ there's the code. Please do support. Every penny will help her. So please do help her with that. And that's us. Thank you very much indeed. I hope you enjoyed it. Back again with myself next Sunday. Scott Snyder has turned around and said he wants to take part in the show. So hopefully we'll announce that at some point in the near future. I do know that I am trying to arrange a conversation with Amy Chu as well regarding Comic Book Legal Defense Fund, because that's an organization that has had its issues. It's had its skeletons in the closet, but now it's an organization that's trying to reinvent itself, and getting people like Amy Chu involved can only help with that. They're definitely getting involved more physically as well with cases as well. They've got lawyers that work for them, so they're definitely getting involved, certainly with banned books. Want to talk about the mission of the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund.
Cool.
Bunch of other shows as well we've got planned. So please do subscribe and watch our socials for that. I will be on ICECAST on Thursday with Shane, with Sam, and with Ollie on Thursday. Hopefully you can join us for that as well. Shane, thank you very much indeed. One last time, do you want to let people know where people can find you and what you get up to as well?
Oh God, just Google Scratch Comics and the ICECAST Live, because that's basically what I do. I'll just show you my comic that I just one last
Look
little
at
plug.
that thing. You should have picked that earlier.
And also, there you go.
I've got that one. I've got that one.
You? Did you enjoy it?
Oh yeah, I was a big supporter. Oh, I supported that.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Issue 2 is on its way. It's just finished.
I backed that. Very good indeed. Very good.
You.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Shane. We'll see you later. Have yourself a safe week. Do take care, and we'll see you on the next Talkin Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. For myself and Shane, we'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.